Chapter 4. Social Engineering. In the computer world, social engineering can be described as tricking someone into doing something, often detrimental, to themselves or others. Social engineering is one of the most common forms of hacking because it is so often successful. It's often the most frustrating for the defender because it cannot be prevented using technology alone. Social engineering methods. Social engineering can be accomplished many ways, including over a computer, using a phone call, in person, or using traditional postal mail. There are so many ways and varieties of social engineering that any list purporting to catalog all the ways is going to miss some of the methods. When social engineering originates on the computer, it's usually done using email or over the web, although it has also been done using instant messaging and just about every other computer program type. Phishing. A common social engineering target is to capture a user's logon credentials using what is called phishing. Phishing emails or websites attempt to trick the user into supplying their legitimate logon credentials by posing as a legitimate website or administrator that the end user is familiar with. The most common phishing ploy is to send an email purporting to be from a website administrator claiming that the user's password must be verified or else their access to the site will be cut off. Spear phishing is a type of phishing attempt that is particularly targeted against a specific person or group using non-public information that the targets would be familiar with. An example of spear phishing is a project manager being sent a document in email supposedly from a project member purporting to be related to a project they are working on, and when they open the document, it executes malicious commands. Spear phishing is often involved in many of the most high-profile corporate compromises. Trojan horse execution. Another just as popular social engineering ploy is used to get the unsuspecting end user to execute a Trojan horse program. It can be done via email, either as a file attachment or in an embedded URL. It is done on websites just as frequently. Often a legitimate website is compromised, and when a visiting trusting user loads the web page, the user is instructed to execute a file. The file can be a needed third-party add-on, a fake antivirus detector, or a needed patch. The legitimate website can be directly compromised, or another independently involved element, such as a third-party banner ad service, is. Either way, the user, who often trusts the legitimate website after years of visiting without a problem, has no reason to suspect that the trusted website has been compromised. Over the phone. Scammers can also call users purporting to be either technical support, a popular vendor, or from a government agency. One of the most popular scams is when the user is called from someone claiming to be from tech support, claiming that a malware program has been detected on the user's computer. They then request that the user download an anti-malware program, which proceeds, not unsurprisingly, to detect many malware programs. They then get the user to download and execute a remote access program, which the fake tech support person then uses to log on to the victim's computer to plant more malicious software. The bogus tech support program culminates when the victim buys a fake anti-malware program using their credit card number. Over-the-phone scammers can also purport to be from tax collection services, law enforcement, or other government agencies, looking to get paid so that the end user will avoid stiff penalties or jail. Purchase scams. Another very popular scam is carried out against people buying or selling goods on websites, such as auction sites or Craigslist-like websites. The innocent victim is either buying or selling something. In buying scams, the buyer quickly replies, usually offers to pay the full purchase price plus shipping, and asks the seller to use their trusted escrow agents. They then send the victim a fake check for more than the agreed-upon purchase amount, which the victim deposits into their bank account. Unfortunately, banks readily accept these fake checks, but ultimately make the victim responsible for the lost money. The buyer asks the victim's seller to return the extra money to their shipper or escrow agent. The seller victim is usually out at least that amount in the end. In selling scams, the victim buyer sends the funds but never receives the goods. The average selling scam is at least $1,000. The average buying scam can be tens of thousands of dollars. In person. Some of the most notorious social engineering scams are those that have been accomplished in person by the hacker themselves. In the next chapter, notorious previous black hat Kevin Mitnick is profiled. Decades ago, he was one of the most brazen physical social engineers we had. Mitnick thought nothing of dressing up as a telephone repair person or service technician to enter an otherwise secure location. Physical social engineers are well known for walking into banks and installing keylogging devices on employee terminals while posing as computer repair people. As distrusting as people are by nature of strangers, they are surprisingly disarmed if that stranger happens to be a repair person, especially if that service person says something like, "I hear your computer has been acting slow lately." Who can refute that statement? The repair person obviously knows about the ongoing problem and is finally here to fix it. Carrot or stick. The end user is often either threatened with a penalty for not doing something or promised a reward for doing something. The ruse begins by putting the victim under duress, as people don't weigh risks as carefully during stress events. They either have to pay a fine or go to jail. They have to run the program or risk having their computer stay infected and their bank account emptied. They have to send money or someone they care about will remain in a foreign jail. They have to change the boss's password or else get in trouble with the boss. One of my favorite social engineering ruses when I'm pen testing is to send an email out to a company's employees purporting to be from the CEO or CFO and announcing that the employee's company is merging with their next biggest rival. I tell them to click on the attached booby-trapped document to see if their jobs are affected by the merger. Or I send a legal-looking email to the male employees purporting to be from their ex-wife's lawyer asking for more child support. You'd be amazed how successful these two-trick emails are. Social engineering defenses. Defending against social engineering attacks takes a combination of training and education. Education. Anti-social engineering training is one of the best, most essential defenses against social engineering. The training must include examples of the most common types of social engineering and how potential victims can spot the signs of illegitimacy. At my current company, each employee is required to watch an anti-social engineering video each year and take a short test. The most successful trainings have included other very smart, trusted, and well-liked employees who share their personal experience of having been successfully tricked by a particular type of common social engineering ploy. I think every company should have fake phishing campaigns where their employees are sent fish-looking emails asking for their credentials. Employees providing their credentials should be given additional training. There are a variety of resources, both free and commercial, for doing fake phishing campaigns, with the commercial ones obviously offering easier use and sophistication. All computer users need to be taught about social engineering tactics. People buying and selling goods on the Internet need to be educated about purchase scams. They should only use legitimate escrow services and follow all the website's recommendations for an untainted transaction. Be careful of installing software from third-party websites. Users should be taught never to install any software program directly from a website they are visiting, unless it is the website of the legitimate vendor who created the software. If a website says you need to install some piece of third-party software to continue to view it, and you think it is a legitimate request, leave the website and go to the software vendor's website to install it. Never install another vendor's software from someone else's website. It might actually be legitimate software, but the risk is too great. EV digital certificates. Web surfers should be taught to look for the Extended Validation, EV, digital certificates. n.wikipedia.org/wiki/extended_validation_certificate on many of the most popular websites. EV websites are often highlighted in some way, usually a green address bar or highlighted green name, to confirm to the user that the website's URL and identity have been confirmed by a trusted third party. For an EV example, go to bankofamerica.com. Get rid of passwords. Credential phishing can't work if the employee can't give away their logon credential. Simple logon names with passwords are going away in favor of two-factor authentication, 2FA, digital certificates, logon devices, out-of-band authentication, and other logon methods that cannot be phished. Anti-social engineering technologies. Most anti-malware web filtering software and email anti-spam solutions tried to minimize social engineering done using computers. Anti-malware software will try to detect execution of malicious files. Web filtering software will try to identify malicious websites as the visitor's browser tries to load the page. And email anti-spam solutions often filter out social engineering emails. However, technology will never be completely successful, so end-user training and other methods must be used in conjunction. Social engineering is a very successful hacking method. Some computer security experts will tell you that you cannot do enough training to successfully make all employees aware of social engineering tactics. They are wrong. A combination of enough training and the right technologies can significantly diminish the risk of social engineering. In the next chapter, we profile social engineering expert Kevin Mitnick. His experiences as a social engineering hacker have helped him better defend his customers for decades. Chapter 5. Profile. Kevin Mitnick. When the term computer hacker is thrown around, most people think of Kevin Mitnick. Back in the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s, Kevin Mitnick was the hacker. Mitnick used a combination of social engineering and lower-level operating system research to pull off all sorts of outrageous stunts. Although the overall harm caused by him is debatable, especially when compared to today's world of APT attacks and ransomware. He and his exploits have been written about in several books, have been made into a movie, and have generated a peculiar subculture of eccentric hacking stories attributed to him that he never did. The government's own fear of Mitnick was so bad that he is the only U.S. prisoner not allowed to use a phone while incarcerated and kept in solitary confinement for fear that one word or sound from him could launch a nuclear missile. If you've ever seen a movie where the protagonist said one word into a phone and then a whole lot of bad cyber stuff happened, that scene germinated from the paranoia surrounding Mitnick. I'm including Mitnick early in this book because, since those early days of cyber mischief, he has dedicated his life to fighting computer crime, and he is one of the few reformed longtime black hats that I completely trust. Today, Mitnick has written several books on computer security. Amazon.com/s/ref=DP_ByLine_SR_book_1-IE=UTF-8 &text Kevin plus Mitnick &search-alias =books &field-author equals Kevin plus Mitnick ampersand sort equals relevance rank. Works with several companies, including NoB4, has his own security consulting firm, Mitnick Security Consulting, has the busiest speaking schedule of any computer security figure I know, was on the Colbert Report, and has even had a cameo on the popular television show Alias. Mitnick's lessons to the industry have resulted in a stronger recognition of the role social engineering plays in hacking and how to defeat it. After all, if you're going to stop a criminal, it can't hurt to learn from an intelligent, reformed one. I asked Mitnick what led to his interest in hacking. He said, "I was interested in magic as a kid. I loved magic. A kid at school showed me some tricks with the phone, like how to get free long-distance phone calls, how to find out someone's address with just their phone number, calling, forwarding, etc. He would go into a phone booth, call someone, the phone company, act like he was someone else, and make something magical happen. It was my first experience of social engineering. It was like magic to me. I didn't know it was called phone phreaking and social engineering. I just knew that it was fun and exciting, and pretty much it began to take over my life. It's all I did. I was bored with school, and because I was up all night phone phreaking, my grades began to suffer." I asked what his parents thought about his hacking exploits. He replied, "Well, early on they didn't know anything, or maybe they thought I was doing something questionable on a phone. But my mother must have thought, how much trouble can he get to on a phone besides annoying people? But they really didn't have a clue what I was up to until my mom got an official letter from AT&T informing her that they were turning off our phone service. She was very upset. You have to remember, this was in the days before cell phones. Your home phone was your only lifeline to other people. I told her to calm down and that I would fix it. I basically socially engineered a phone back into our house. First, I made up a new housing unit. We lived in Unit 13. I called up the phone company's business office department, pretending to be someone else, and made up Unit 13B. I waited a few days for that new unit to get into the system. Then I called the provisioning department and asked for a new phone to be installed in Unit 13B. I even went to the hardware store and got a B to add to our outside number. I called pretending to be a new customer named Jim Bond from England. I gave them a real previous phone number from England I found along with other identifying information because I knew they wouldn't be able to verify any foreign information. Then I asked if I could pick a vanity number, and they said yes, and I picked a phone number ending in 007. At the end of the conversation, I asked if using my nickname of Jim was okay, or did I have to use my full legal name. They said I had to use my legal name, and I told them it was James. So I was registered with AT&T as James Bond with a phone number ending in 007, and my mother had her phone back. AT&T got mad about that one when my scheme was finally caught. I realized at this point in our interview that he hadn't mentioned anything about computer hacking. He was only talking about phone misuse. I asked how he got into computer hacking. He replied, "There was a kid in high school who knew I was into phone phreaking, and he thought I would be interested in a new high-level computer science class the school was offering. I said I wasn't interested at first, but the kid said, 'You know, I hear the phone companies are getting into computers.' And that was enough for me. I had to learn about these computers. I had to go to the instructor of the class, Mr. Chris, and ask him if I could join it because I didn't have any of the necessary prerequisites, which at the time included advanced mathematics and physics, or grades, which had really begun to suffer from my lack of sleep due to phone phreaking. Mr. Chris wasn't sure about letting me in, so I demonstrated my phone phreaking to him by telling him his unlisted phone number and those of his kids. He said, "That's magic," and let me into the class. Our first assigned program was a Fortran program to calculate Fibonacci numbers, which I found too boring. I had actually gone to the local university, Northridge, and tried to get computing time on the computer there. They had the same computers and operating system. But I couldn't get more than 5 minutes of time on them. So I went to the computer lab leader and asked for more time. He said that I wasn't even a college student and shouldn't be there. But he also saw how interested I was in computers, and to encourage me, he gave me his personal logon account and password to practice with. Can you believe it? Those were the type of days around computers then. I ended up learning about low-level operating system calls. This was stuff they were not teaching in my high school class. At the high school, we all shared a modem that used a dial-up handset and a modem coupler. The modem stayed up all the time, and people would log in and out to access the terminal and modem. I wrote a low-level program that stayed active in the background and recorded everyone's keystrokes as they typed, including their logon names and passwords. When the day came for Mr. Chris's students to show him how many Fibonacci numbers their class-assigned programs had calculated, I had nothing. Mr. Chris admonished me in front of the class about how he had let me into the class and taken a risk, and I had nothing to show for it. Every eye in the class was on me. I said, "Well, I've been too busy writing a program to capture your password, and your password is Johnco." He said, "How did you do it?" I explained it to him, and he congratulated me and told the whole class I was a computer whiz. He wasn't mad at all. This was perhaps a very bad first ethics lesson for me to learn. I asked Mitnick what a parent should do if they see signs that their kid is doing malicious hacking. He offered, show them how to hack legally. Channel their interest into legal and ethical opportunities, like going to computer security conferences and participating in Capture the Flag contests. The parent should challenge the kid by saying something like, "So, do you think you're good enough to be in a Capture the Flag contest?" The parent can socially engineer the kid, and the kid will get the same fun and excitement, but from a legal way. I just got through legally hacking a company today, and it gave me the same thrill as it did when I wasn't doing ethical and legal things. I wish they had all the legal ways to hack that they do now. I wish I could go back in time and do it differently. You know the only thing different between illegal and legal hacking? The report writing. I wondered how Mitnick, with experience on both sides of the fence, felt about the government's right to know something versus an individual's right to privacy. He said, "I think we all have a huge right to privacy. In fact, my latest book, The Art of Invisibility, Amazon.com/art-invisibility-worlds-teaches-brother/DP/0316380504, is all about how someone can keep their privacy. I think it's very difficult to stay private against someone like the NSA or government with unlimited funds. I mean, if they can't break your encryption, they can just use one of their many 0 days and break into your endpoint or buy a 0 day. For $1.5 million, you can buy an Apple 0 day. For $500,000, you can buy an Android 0 day, and so on. If you've got the funds and resources, you're going to get the information you're after. Although in The Art of Invisibility, I think I have a way that will even work against them, but it's very tough to do and involves a lot of OPSEC stuff. But it can be done in a way that I think even the NSA or any government would have a tough time defeating. I understand a government's need to know in certain cases like terrorism, but they want to see into everything and everyone. And if you are being watched, you change your behavior, and that means you have less freedom. I don't think you can have freedom without privacy. I ended our interview by reminding Mitnick that we had briefly met once before at a security conference many years ago, where he was going up to talk as the headliner after I did. As he passed me, he realized he needed a USB thumb drive to get his presentation to the dedicated presenter laptop up on the stage. I had one in my pocket that I offered. He almost took it, but after reconsidering it a few seconds, he declined and said he didn't trust anyone else's USB key. A few people around us chuckled at his paranoia. After all, you couldn't get infected by a USB device, or so everyone generally believed at the time. What no one realized was that I had discovered how to automatically launch any program off any portable media, using a trick that involved a hidden file called desktop.ini, which the Stuxnet malware program later used. And just by accident, the USB key stick had a demonstration version of that exploit. I hadn't meant to intentionally infect Mitnick. It just happened to be on every USB key I had at the time, and I had innocently offered my USB key when he asked. Mitnick's constant paranoia saved him from my 0 day. It also goes to show that it's hard to scam a professional social engineer still in their prime. For more information on Kevin Mitnick. For more information about Kevin Mitnick, check out these resources. Kevin Mitnick's website, mitnicksecurity.com. Ghost in the Wires. Amazon.com/ghost-wires-adventures-world-wanted/DP/03160377229/. The Art of Invisibility. Amazon.com/art-invisibility-worlds-teaches-brother/DP/0316380-504/. The Art of Deception. Amazon.com/art-deception-controlling-element-security/DP/076454280X/. The Art of Intrusion. Amazon.com/art-intrusion-exploits-intruders-deceivers/DP/04717826661/. Know Before's Kevin Mitnick Security Awareness Training. knowbe4.com/products/Kevin-Mitnick-security-awareness-training/ Kevin Mitnick's /Q&A. news.slashdot.org/story/11/09/12/1234252/ Kevin-Mitnick-answers. Chapter 6. Software Vulnerabilities. Software vulnerabilities are susceptible weaknesses, i.e. bugs, in software, often from exploitable flaws written by the developer or inherent in the programming language. Not every software bug is a security vulnerability. The bug must be exploitable by an attacker to become a threat or risk. Most software bugs cause an operational issue, which may not even directly manifest themselves to the operator, or even cause a fatal interruption to processing, but cannot be leveraged by an attacker to gain unauthorized system access. Exploitable software vulnerabilities are responsible for a large, if not the largest, percentage of hacking in a given time period, even though other hacking methods, such as Trojan horse programs and social engineering, are often very competitive. Some computer security experts think most computer security issues would go away if all software was bug-free, although this isn't true or possible. Still, even if not a panacea, more secure code with fewer vulnerabilities would wipe a significant category of hacking issues out and make our computing environment appreciably safer. Number of software vulnerabilities. There are many sources for tracking public software vulnerabilities, although the bugs listed for each may vary significantly. On average, each year, major software developers and bug finders publicly announce 5,000 to 6,000 new software vulnerabilities. That's about 15 bugs per day, day after day. The Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures (CVE) service, located at cve.miter.org, and their lists, cve.miter.org/data/downloads/index.html, are considered an inclusive, trusted, independent site for reporting and tracking public vulnerabilities. Many other vendors track either their own vulnerabilities or all known vulnerabilities as well. Check out any issue of Microsoft's Security Intelligence Report, Microsoft.com/SIR, to get the latest known figures and great analysis. Of course, these are just the bugs the public gets to know about. Many vendors don't publicly announce every bug. Many don't announce bugs found by internal resources or bugs fixed in pre-production released software. Although there is no way to confirm this, most experts think the real number of bugs is significantly higher than the publicly known numbers. Note: the number of software vulnerabilities is just one measure, and it is not the complete picture of the overall security of a program or system. The only measure that truly matters is how much damage the software vulnerabilities were responsible for. The number of software vulnerabilities might conceivably go down as the amount of damage goes up, although, in general, having more secure programs is better for everyone. Why are software vulnerabilities still a big problem? These days, vendors often patch most critical exploits in a matter of hours to days. That being the case, why are software vulnerabilities still a significant problem, especially when most vendors have auto-updating mechanisms for faster patching? The answer is that a significant portion of computer devices is slowly patched, or in a significant portion of cases, never patched. And each patch has the potential of causing an unexpected operational issue, sometimes causing more frustration to the end user than the bug itself might have caused. The number of overall exploits is fairly overwhelming and constant. A significant portion of computer administration is spent addressing and applying patches. It's an incredible waste of time, money, and other resources that could be better spent on more productive things. Even when users and administrators have patching down to an efficient science, during the time between when the vendor releases the patch and the user or admin applies it is the opportunity for a hacker to be successful against a given system. If I'm a patient, persistent hacker against a particular target, I can just wait until a vendor announces a new patch and use it to exploit my objective. When vendors release patches, both white hat and black hat resources immediately analyze the patch to locate the targeted vulnerability. They then create exploits that can take advantage of the bug. There are dozens of commercial companies, a few free services, and an unnamed number of hackers that do this every day. You can purchase and/or download vulnerability scanners that will scan each targeted device and report back on unpatched vulnerabilities. These vulnerability scanners often have thousands and thousands of exploits built in. There are many hacker websites around the world with thousands of individual exploits that you can download to exploit a particular vulnerability. One of the most popular free tools used by black hats and white hats alike is Metasploit. Metasploit.com/ Defenses against software vulnerabilities. The number one defense against software vulnerabilities is better trained software developers and more secure by default programming languages. Security Development Lifecycle. The process of trying to reduce the number of software vulnerabilities is now commonly known as the Security Development Lifecycle, SDL. The SDL focuses on every component in the lifecycle of a software program, from its initial creation to its patching of newly found vulnerabilities in order to make more secure software. Although not invented at Microsoft, Microsoft Corporation has probably done more work in the area and released more free information and tools, Microsoft.com/SDL, than any other single source. The fallibility of humans ensures that software code will always have exploitable bugs, but by following the SDL, we can have fewer of them, per the same number of lines of code. Note: Dr. Daniel J. Bernstein, n.wikipedia.org/wiki/Daniel_J._Bernstein, is a college professor who promotes and delivers incredibly secure code. He has created several free and widely used programs, such as DBJ-DNS and QMail, that have a very low number of bugs. He even offers to pay bug finders money out of his own pocket. He believes in publicly embarrassing vendors by publicly announcing bugs before giving vendors a chance to analyze and patch their products. More secure programming languages. More secure programs cannot begin without more secure programming languages. Over the years, most programming languages have strived to create more secure default versions. These languages tried to reduce or eliminate common causes of exploits. To this end, they have been fairly successful, and programs written in them are significantly harder to exploit than those built using more insecure languages. Code and program analysis. After a program version is written, it should always be analyzed for known and recognizable bugs. This can be done using human analysis or software tools. Human analysis tends to be the least efficient, finding the least number of bugs per hour spent, but it can find significantly exploitable bugs that the tools are not coded to find. Software bug-finding tools are often classified as static analysis or fuzzers. Static analyzers look at source code or programs, checking for known software bugs in the coding itself. Fuzzers enter in unexpected data inputs looking for vulnerabilities in the runtime program. Many infamous bug hunters, including Dr. Charlie Miller, profiled in Chapter 36, relied on fuzzing for many of their discoveries. More secure operating systems. Most operating systems are not only being coded by programmers steeped in the SDL and using more secure by default programming languages, but are also including built-in defenses against common exploit vectors. Most of today's popular operating systems include specially designed memory defenses and protect the operating system's most critical areas. Some even include built-in anti-buffer overflow, anti-malware, and firewall software, all of which help to limit exploitable bugs or their subsequent damage. Third-party protections and vendor add-ons. There are thousands of programs that will defend a computer system against previously unknown software vulnerabilities, with at least some success. Some are offered as free or paid add-ons by the vendor, and others are from independent third parties. Programs that promise to detect and stop new exploits are very common, and although never perfect, they can significantly reduce the risk of new threats. One of my favorite types of defensive software is called application control or whitelisting programs. These programs won't stop the initial exploit, but they can stop or make it harder for the hacker or malware program to do further damage. Perfect software won't cure all ills. No defense beats software that is more securely coded with less exploitable bugs from the start. However, perfect bug-free software is impossible, and would not cure all hacking even if it was possible. Unfortunately, software vulnerabilities aren't our only problem. Trojan horse programs work by simply getting the user to run a purely malicious program. Many hackers and malware programs exploit the inherent, otherwise legitimate, capabilities of data, scripting languages, and other components to do bad things. And social engineering can accomplish what software cannot. Still, no one argues that more secure software programs can't help. Chapters 7 and 8 cover two experts who have dedicated their lives to better perfecting software. Chapter 7 profiles Michael Howard, who popularized more secure coding practices, and Chapter 8 focuses on Gary McGraw, one of the best bug finders in existence. Chapter 7. Profile. Michael Howard. Michael Howard is infectious. He's a great educator and energetic speaker, and after nearly 20 years is as passionate about his computer security specialty, secure code, as he was in the beginning. It's hard to be around him more than a few minutes without you wanting to help make the world more secure one line of code at a time. He first gained worldwide notice for co-authoring Writing Secure Code. Amazon.com/writing-secure-code-michael-howard/DP/07356-15888, along with David LeBlanc, and for being a significant part of the reason why Microsoft is hugely dedicated to writing more secure code. Howard, originally from New Zealand but now living in Austin, Texas, has co-written several books on writing more secure code and is a frequent blogger. Note: David LeBlanc, Howard's co-author on Writing Secure Code, is another forward-looking security practitioner. He is responsible for making Microsoft Office significantly more secure, and he created a more secure browser security model that ended up being used by Google, Adobe, and Microsoft. I asked Howard how he got into computer security. He replied, "I was working on very early versions of Windows NT for Microsoft. I was doing fairly low-level stuff like access control, cryptography, and custom GINAs, graphical interfaces which used to be the way you logged into and authenticated by Microsoft Windows and other authentication providers. This really led me to start thinking about security as a feature more. Around 2000, it became clear that security features do not make a product secure. Rather, you have to also focus on secure features, which is a different discipline." I asked him how the SDL got started at Microsoft. He said, "Over time, various security-related practices learned by the .NET framework, Windows, Office, and SQL Server teams, and others evolved into the Security Development Lifecycle, SDL. SDL helped popularize the secure code and secure design movement, and is now the leading force in how many companies better secure their software." I wondered whether SDL was a small improvement over something else he read, or if SDL was something he built from the ground up without any prior reference. He replied, "Everyone builds on the work of others, but most of SDL was from doing and learning. What works stays and what does not work or is utterly non-pragmatic is tossed. Sometimes I wonder if some of the academic models had been tried in a production environment at all, one with deadlines, performance requirements, time to market, economic concerns, backward compatibility requirements, and so on." At the time, there was a huge school of thought which believed that if you could just increase the overall quality of the code, you would directly increase the security of the code as well. But I have yet to see any empirical evidence of that. You can make functional SQL code that passes all functionality tests, but it could be riddled with SQL injection vulnerabilities. If you've never been trained in what SQL injection vulnerability is, all you'll see is perfect code. It does what it's supposed to do. A secure system only does what it's supposed to do and no more. It's the extra functionality that comes with the SQL injection weakness that makes it insecure. I asked him what his role was in Microsoft adopting SDL practices. He shared, "It was the synergy of a lot of different things that I and others were involved with. It started in late 2001 when the .NET team had a security stand-down event to look at the current security issues and potential risks. We learned a lot from it. and added many new defenses. I remember that we had some t-shirts printed up for the event with the dates on it, and then a major snowstorm hit, and so the event was delayed. So it was ironic that in the quest for more secure code, we had the wrong date on all our t-shirts. But what came out of that event was learnings that eventually fed into the SDL. David's and my book came out and got many people to think more about code security. 2001 saw Microsoft under attack by lots of malware and hackers. The Code Red and Nimda worms hit hard, so Bill Gates asked about the nature of software vulnerabilities and why we still had them. I got picked to be part of the team that met with Bill Gates. I handed him an early copy of our Writing Secure Code book, and from the meeting, Bill eventually wrote his famous Trustworthy Computing memo. Microsoft.com/mscore/execmail/2002/07-18twc.mspx. Bill mentioned our book in the memo, which saw sales skyrocket. I ended up working for the newly created Trustworthy Computing division at Microsoft. This started a process of additional security stand-downs, also for Windows, for SQL Server, and many other Microsoft products. SDL was generated and updated out of all of this, and improved and made more efficient. It continues to be updated annually. I asked if it was true that he and Microsoft have released more information and tools regarding secure coding than any other single entity. He said, unequivocally and emphatically yes. But more important, these are the tools and techniques that we use in our production environment, on millions of lines of production code every day. This is not an academic exercise. It's what one of the largest companies in the world does, and we share nearly all of it. I asked if the world's programmers are getting better trained on computer security issues. Why isn't the world seeing fewer publicly announced vulnerabilities? He said, well, for sure there's more software with more lines of code, but the real problem is that programmers still aren't getting trained in secure coding and have no understanding of basic security threats. Academia is still way behind in most cases. I was reviewing a university's computer security class curriculum the other day, and nearly 50% of the class focused on low-level network threats. There wasn't any training on cloud security or secure coding. Our colleges are still turning out programmers who don't know much about computer security or secure coding, which is a travesty when you consider these grads will create critical systems hooked up to the Internet. I still find very basic bugs in other people's coding. When I demo a memory corruption issue or an SQL injection vulnerability, very basic stuff, very common, it's as if I've done something magically or special. It is so hard to find an incoming programmer that actually understands basic computer security that I'll get excited if the candidate at least cares about it. If the programmer's eyes open wide when I'm discussing computer security issues, I'm pretty happy. If they are at least interested, we can teach the rest. You'd be amazed how many don't care. And a big reason for that is it still isn't taught. Or the wrong things are being taught, like focusing on network security or minutia. Schools will teach a student how the RSA algorithm works in detail, but not spend time teaching why it should be used. What problems does it solve, and what solutions it's good for? Knowing how to use something correctly to solve real-world security problems is much more important than knowing how it works. Anyone can memorize a protocol, but we need people knowing about risks and thinking about solutions. Some teachers and colleges are doing it right, like Matt Bishop at the University of California, Davis, but it's heroic efforts by Matt and others that makes it possible. He and the other professors like him are the real heroes. I asked, since most colleges aren't adequately preparing our coders in this area, what an individual coder can do. He said, always learn. I put an hour every day on my calendar that says learn, and I read, code, experiment for an hour with something I don't know about. Every day. I've been doing that my whole career. Second, if you aren't getting formal computer security training, make your own. Go to the CVE, cve.miter.org/CVE/. Read about some recent bugs, really read about them in detail. Then write code that has the vulnerability and figure out what it would take to have prevented that vulnerability, at both the technical level and the process level. How did the vulnerability happen and get put in the code in the first place? And then use those lessons to keep those same types of bugs out of your own code. I asked what most companies could do to write more secure code besides following all the current SDL advice and tools that are readily available. He replied, "Make coders understand the real threats, not just the theoretical stuff, and build the security process into the development pipeline so bad and insecure code can't even get into the pipeline. We call them quality gates at Microsoft. A good non-security example is someone who writes code that assumes that all IP addresses have 4 octets. That means that code will never work on a pure IPv6 environment. That code can't even be submitted to our code check-in processes because a tool that is automatically run finds the issue and the check-in is rejected. That's what we mean by quality gate. But for security, repeat that for SQL injection, memory safety threats, and everything else you don't want getting into the code. If I had to pick a few basic security-related practices, they would be: developers need to learn to never trust input data and to validate it for correctness, preferably through the use of a well-tested and reviewed library. If you expect data that is only 20 bytes long, then restrict to 20 bytes. If you expect a number, then check that it's a number and so on. Designers/architects/program managers need to learn threat modeling and verify that the correct defenses are in place for the system. Finally, testers need to prove the developers wrong by building or procuring tools that build malicious and/or malformed data. The goal is to defeat the developers' checks, if they have any. There is more to software security than what I said, but these are, in my opinion, the fundamental security-related skills all software engineers must have. For more information on Michael Howard, about Michael Howard, check out these resources. Michael Howard's books, Amazon.com/michael-howard/E/BOO1-H6GDPW/ref=DP_book_1. Michael Howard's blogs, blogs.msdn.microsoft.com/Michael_Howard/. Michael Howard on Twitter, twitter.com/Michael_Howard. Chapter 8. Profile: Gary McGraw. When I called up Gary McGraw for an interview, he told me he just got through talking to a Catholic monk who was walking near his Shenandoah River property in Virginia. Within seconds, he was talking about the intricacies of computer security. These sorts of otherwise unnatural paradoxes have been with McGraw his whole life. He started programming on his first computer, an Apple II Plus, in 1981 at age 16. He ended up going to college for an undergraduate degree in philosophy, and along the way became a classically trained musician. He even played twice at Carnegie Hall. Today, along with being one of the world's best computer security experts, he loves to cook, garden, and mix new cocktails. I asked McGraw how he went from being a philosophy undergraduate at University of Virginia to being interested in the field of computer security. He told me that he had gotten interested in the philosophy of the mind, which led him to taking a course called Computers, Minds, and the Brain at UVA, being taught by Paul Humphreys. He thought the ideas that Professor Humphreys was teaching were wrong, but it started him thinking more deeply about the philosophy of the mind and AI. He ended up bringing industry luminary and American Pulitzer Prize winner Dr. Douglas Hofstadter's ideas into play during the class, and that changed his whole career path. He had not taken a computer science class until graduate school, but he had been in love with programming since 1981 as a kid. Under Hofstadter at Indiana University, he got a dual PhD in cognitive science and computer science. He even ended up writing Chapter 10 of the first book ever sold on Amazon. It was Hofstadter's book, Fluid Concepts and Creative Analogies, Computer Models of the Fundamental Mechanisms of Thought. Amazon.com/fluid-concepts-creative-analygies-fundamental/DP/046502470. After college, he joined a company of 7 people that eventually became Cigital. Cigital.com. Cigital won a big DARPA grant to do computer security research, and he was hired to work on that. Cigital eventually grew to 500 employees by the time it was sold to Synopsys in 2016. Now there are 1,000 people in the software security division of the larger company, dedicated to improving software in a meaningful way. My first big memory of McGraw's name and work is when he and Ed Felten took on the security of the Java programming language, wrote a book, and found dozens of security vulnerabilities. This was a bit mind-blowing at the time because Sun Microsystems had intentionally made Java a supposedly very secure programming language because they knew it would be very web-based and subject to constant hacker attack. Java came out in 1995, and Sun claimed from the start that it was a very secure programming language. It had been built by some of the big wizards of programming languages, including Guy Steele and Bill Joy. Most computer security experts wondered whether it was really going to be as secure as Sun thought, or would just turn out to be another overhyped security promise. It turns out it was the latter. After some early promise, Java produced some of the most bug-ridden pieces of software known in our world. McGraw was one of the very best at finding Java vulnerabilities, and McGraw and Felten were the genesis of analyzing Java for security bugs. McGraw had met eventual frequent co-author Ed Felten at a conference, and that meeting led to the first of many books. Amazon.com/Gary-McGraw/E/B000AP-Z2S/ref=SR_TC_2_0-1-484-584-085 & Many of McGraw's books became Amazon bestsellers. One, Exploiting Software, even became number 16 overall, which is huge for any computer book, much less a computer security book. McGraw continued to think about software security and where someone might go to learn how to build something more secure. He wondered how the rest of us regular programmers were going to build secure software when the very best wizards, like Bill Joy and Guy Steele, couldn't do it properly. He wondered about what went wrong in the process and why it went wrong. He realized that all software and programs had to be designed and written from the ground up with security in mind. Around the same time, he came up with his Trinity of Trouble, which talked about why software security remained interesting and hard. Basically, if it's networked, complex, and extensible, it is almost always going to be interesting from a security perspective and hard to secure. Java, unfortunately, had all 3 of these traits in spades, although its complexity was likely the toughest aspect going against it. After he co-wrote Building Secure Software in 1999, he ended up visiting many companies, including Microsoft, where Michael Howard, profiled in Chapter 7, worked with Jason Garms in the very new Secure Windows initiative. He remembers all of Microsoft's product managers being at his talk, and that Microsoft was clearly ready for software security. After several more years of practicing software security in the field, through both services and technology development, McGraw ended up co-creating his Building Security and Maturity model, BSIM. BSIM is now used by well over 100 very large firms to measure, track, and understand their progress in software security. I asked how Michael Howard's SDL and his BSIM models differed, since they both are about how to make more secure software. He said SDL is a particular methodology. BSIM is a measurement tool that can be used to measure, compare, and contrast many different SDL-like methodologies. Microsoft's SDL is just one methodology, but it's very good, and they wrote it down and shared it. What Michael Howard, who I like very much, did was to institutionalize an approach for a very large organization with tens of thousands of programmers. He showed that securing software could be done on a tremendously large scale, which was very important. As I do with every person profiled in this book, I asked McGraw what he thought was the biggest computer security problem. His answer reflected Michael Howard's, who I had previously interviewed. He said, "Even though there are a ton of great resources on how to build and design more secure systems, not enough people that build and program systems know enough about security yet. Although some colleges and commercial training companies are doing a great job, even more are doing a poor job. And that's if they are doing anything at all." He feels that the discipline of computer security is still very sloppy. His favorite book on security and building things properly is Ross Anderson's Security Engineering. Amazon.com/security-engineering-building-dependable-DP/0471-389-226/. He said he loves that book even more than all 12 of his own books, and I think it's the best security book on the planet. McGraw has his monthly Silver Bullet Security podcast, GaryMcGraw.com/technology/silver-bullet-podcast/, where he interviews industry luminaries and experts. He just celebrated his 10th year with his 120th podcast. In reviewing his list of interviewees, I saw that many of them are the same people profiled in this book. He clearly loves the history of computer security like I do, and wants to keep learning and sharing. With our interview over, I imagined that McGraw would go back to walking with his dog along the farm's riverside trail while contemplating new types of software security design flaws. He's a Renaissance man for the ages. For more information on Gary McGraw. For more information about Gary McGraw, check out these resources. Gary McGraw's books. Amazon.com/Gary-McGraw/E/B00APFZ2S/. Gary McGraw's website. GaryMcGraw.com/. Gary McGraw's Silver Bullet Security Podcast. GaryMcGraw.com/technology/silver-bullet-podcast/.